What is up, guys? This is Theo coming at you with that all-important Q&A video. Yes, I said I would do it and I'm following through. I just want to say I was really surprised by the amount of people who actually commented on it. In the first half an hour I got about 70 comments, which is quite unusual unless there's a quite controversial topic that I'll put up. But really fun, really funny to read over some of the comments, and you'll see a lot of them now. I'll just say that I can't go through all of them. I think there was about 270 odd, but any of the other ones I'll bring over to the next one. So the format is, in this video I'll answer them, and also you can post new questions that you want to ask me for next month's Q&A video, and we'll just see how it goes from that, and we'll just keep rolling on it. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Rocky100 asked, what is your opinion on troll decks, and would you ever take one to an event? Now, it depends what you define as troll. Troll is normally your Exodia and Burn kind of decks, but I take Herald to events sometimes when I feel that it's a good meta call, when I feel comfortable against the meta decks. And you can argue that's a troll deck, but it just depends on what type of deck it is, what type of format it is, and just in general how I feel about the event. From team No Fat Chicks, I like that, No Fat Chicks. So how much time do you put into YuGiOh every week? Now, that normally depends on my schedule. I like to try and do most of my videos on a Saturday because it's just more convenient for me to be able to just block render them, block record them, and block edit them. But over the week, if I can't do that, or if I'm busy on the weekends, or if I have just some pressing matters that I want to record or anything like that, it'll be in the evening. So if we take a video of, say, 5 minutes, just a normal discussion video, 10 minutes to record it in total, just checking back any information or anything that I want to check, then editing, it can take up to half an hour to an hour, depending on how much post-production I want to put into it. Then rendering, it can take about another 20 minutes to half an hour, again, depending on how much rendering goes into it. So on one video I can rack up about 2 hours just doing it. Deck profiles are actually the easiest thing to do because I record them all in one go. There's no editing involved unless I want to do something a little bit different, and it just, the only actual production that I need to do on it is I don't use the audio from this camera. I have a snowball mic that I use the audio from, so all I do is sync it up and let it render out. So how much time kind of do I put into it a week? Well, it's quite a lot. You'd be looking at probably about 8 to 10 hours. That probably sounds about right. It's quite a lot, but that also does include just kind of when I'm thinking about any decks or discussions or just researching a couple of things on my lunch at work or anything like that. Skyrim Soldier asks, do you like video games, and if you do, what are your favorites? I love video games. So I've been playing video games since I was a kid. Back in the day when you had the NES and SNES and all them. The most fond memory that I have is for the Sega Mega Drive. That was an old school thing, and the original Prince of Persia on that, because that was a bitch of a game to play. It was so hard, the controls were awful, and the amount of times you just fell off the edge because you stepped forward instead of on a 2-space step, it was ridiculous. But yeah, so the games that, probably my favourite one I'd say is Tales Symphonia for the GameCube. Really love that game. It kind of encapsulated a lot of things that I did as a kid. I always remember playing it with friends because you can do full co-op, you can jump in and out of the storyline, which is really good. You don't have to start as co-op storyline and then that's it if they can't turn up. You can jump in and out as different characters, which is really nice as well, because there are just so many different fun characters. But it's just the open world and everything like that was just so good. I'm always playing FIFA. I have a PS4 now, and the main game that I play is FIFA. It's because I'm a massive football buff, and I absolutely love anything to do with football, so the FIFA games are just constantly a thing that I buy. From Sir Apathetic, this is a bit of a long one. Do you think YuGiOh has reached a peak of new ideas and mechanics with pendulum summoning? I know that people asked that when Synchros and XYZs were first released. Or do you think the game has still potential to keep itself going enough, considering the amount of people that have stopped playing and going to tournaments? Now, this is something that a lot of people will always worry about. You always kind of assume that a game's going to run out of ideas. But if we look at something like Magic the Gathering that's been going for so long, then you kind of might think, well, maybe not so much. YuGiOh is one of the longest running TCG card games, I think. Obviously behind Magic. Magic's like 20 something years or something like that. And I know that we see all these games like Vice Schwarz come out, and the Bleach game, and the Naruto card game, and then you've also got Vanguard and the Pokemon TCG and everything like that. And they're all falling kind of short. Now, I'm not actively involved in a lot of them, so if that is incorrect, I do apologise, but you do have to admit they're not at the stature that Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh are at. With the new summoning kind of ideas and the mechanics for the game, I feel there's always going to be something that's going to be created. Whether or not it's going to be broken, that's another matter, but to actually make the mechanics viable, they kind of have to be a little bit broken. XYZs were not that great when we first thought about it, but actually they're pretty stupid. If you think about the mechanic, summoning just 2 monsters of the same level and going into some beefy monster, it's pretty ridiculous. Synchros was a little bit more balanced because you had to have a lot more restrictions, whereas XYZ summoning, there's a lot of variables in which you can kind of dodge. So when it comes to pendulum summoning, that is the kind of same restriction that synchroing might have, because you technically have to set up a scale, but you know, it's just a little bit difficult to say. But I don't think the game's going to be running out of ideas anytime soon. And as regards to people who are leaving the game, you'd be surprised. A lot of people rotate in and out of the game all the time. You might think it's one of the best formats ever, whereas 1,000 people down there might think this is a terrible format and they'll just quit. But it's very difficult because a lot of people will still come back to the game when it gets interesting, or when some nostalgia decks get released or anything like that. For example, Red Eyes, I've seen a lot of people wanting to pick that up already. From Richard Ghost TV. From Jay Grant, how long have you been playing Yu-Gi-Oh? Have you ever thought about leaving the game? So I've been playing ever since the original kind of decks came out. So the Kaiba and Yugi structure deck, that's when I started, when they first came out. Story is, I was in back home in the market with my mates, and I was in secondary school, high school, and we were just walking past this comic store that we occasionally went to, and we saw that there was a new card game out, and I remembered, oh hold on, I know this card game. So I basically had a look, picked it up, and I was like, you know what, why don't we just all buy this? We all bought it, and then we went from there. One of my best mates that I met in the market through Yu-Gi-Oh is still playing now, and I still talk to him regularly. So Simon Drake back in Manchester, props to you. As regards to quitting the game, I have never really wanted to quit the game. I've never been compelled and so disgusted by a card or the format or any decisions that Konami have done to warrant me actually leaving the game. I've taken a break when I was at university because I wanted to concentrate on studies, and I didn't have enough money to really put either on Yu-Gi-Oh or alcohol, so it was alcohol. Crew Club 1, this is quite interesting. If you were Konami, what cards would you take off the Forbidden List as it stands now? So he's put, for example, Cyberstein, Rescue Cat, D-Mark, Tribe Infecting Virus, all those. So as I'm recording this video, the Premium Gold Series kind of got leaked a little bit, or not leaked, but the poster got put up, and Crush Card Virus is on it. And it's probably the errated Crush Card Virus, which means Crush Card Virus is going to be legal. And I don't think that's a problem, to be honest, because it's good, but it's not amazing. It's not what it used to be. It's not that grand card that everyone wanted. As regards to other things, I feel Cyberstein could come back. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't, because you're paying 5,000 life points to get Veiled, or Breakthrough, or Fiendished, or Novad. And it's just, in this day and age, it's a massive risk. If it pulls off, if you manage to pull it off, props to you, but you're on 3k, and that's not difficult to chip away at. Other things like Tribe Infecting Virus was broken back in the day because everyone was running the same type decks. Same type archetype decks that had the exact same types, and it just meant that you were basically Raigeki your opponent's field for a simple discard. Now, whether or not it should come back, I think at one it probably could. A lot of the old cards that were broken back then probably can come back, to be honest, but there are some that I still feel can't come back. Chaos Emperor Dragon, even after the errata, it should not come back. It's a generically unhealthy card. Rescue Cat should never come back, ever, because that card still promotes ridiculous stuff. And the final one that you mentioned is D-Mark. I made a video on D-Mark a while back saying that it can come back, and I still feel that's the case. As long as Monster Reborn isn't at multiple copies, then I feel DMOC can come back, because if DMOC's at multiple copies and Monster Reborn's at multiple copies, it's just gonna get messy, because it'll just go back to the original Monster Reborn DMOC, Monster Reborn DMOC, Monster Reborn. So yeah, that would be just stupid. Question from OJ the Blake. Who's your favourite Yu-Gi tuber? What kind of music are you into? And is Necro's Tier 0 material? So I'll go reverse. Necro's Tier 0? No, not a chance. What kind of music do I listen to? I listen to metal primarily. So I'm quite eclectic in the music that I listen to. I'll listen to OST soundtracks, and then I'll listen to metal, and then I'll listen to death metal, and then I'll go and listen to some classical or anything like that. It completely depends on the kind of mood that I'm in, but my iTunes library and my Spotify playlists are all kind of primarily metal music, so that might not be what you're expecting from me, but some of my favourite bands are like Tesseract, Machine Head, Goria, Mastodon, and so on and so forth, and the heaviest stuff's kind of like Black Dahlia Murder. So if you know them, props. If you don't, I've just spouted some random crap. And finally, here's my favourite Yu-Gi tuber. So this is a really difficult one because I'm friends with a lot of them. You consider the popular people, and they're all really great, and even some of the low ones are really great. So I'm not going to say who my favourite one is because it's quite difficult for me to say, but pointing out some of the people who really work their arse off, like Durock88, I think he's really underrated. I think he's an absolutely great guy. And then you have people like Nimnim, who always puts in his work. RH Niska's actually getting so much better now than what he once was when he was a cocky little shit, and he knows that because I've told him many times, so hello Ryan. But then you can't not say people like Cyberknight, because I love watching all the independent openings, Galactic God just because he's really interesting to watch, Vexicus because he always spouts off some random crap which always makes me laugh and it's always just entertaining. So the Queen of Drama is always around. And there are just so many more out there that I will have forgotten because I'm thinking of so much Q&A stuff. But seriously, they're all great, so if you just see me liking people's videos or commenting on them, it's probably because I'm a fan of them and such. And the other one I must say actually is Mega Capital G. His in-depth discussions and his EN commentary stuff is just interesting. I know that might be considered ironic for me to say because I've bashed onto them a couple of times over the years with his opinions on cards and such, but that's just the game. Like, everyone's not going to be the same opinionated person, so he's a really nice guy. Benjamin So asks, what is your favourite Secret Forces archetype and why? Yosenju, simply. It's a really interesting take on what I think is an updated version of Hunder's. And Hunder's, we all know, is one of my favourite, or if you don't know, Hunder's was one of my favourite decks. I took it to Nationals, did really well with it. I will be posting eventually a new version of it when I get my hands on some of the cards, and the cards are expensive. It's definitely Yosenju, just because the way that they run, the kind of stun tactics they can do, it's just really nice. Zed Black Ice asks 2 questions. Any tips on the first competitive deck for people who want to rejoin the game? And secondly, what sports do you play? So competitive decks, it's quite a difficult one because you can argue that the competitive decks are the expensive ones, and that's just simply that. But there are a lot of good decks out there that you can pick up and can challenge the meta with, simply because they're not that expensive. And the best one right now is Yosenju. If you want to get back into the game with something that isn't as expensive, pick up Yosenju. You can get a core for about £10, I'd say, with the 3 of everything. You can get the vanities really cheaply now. All these different things you can get, and it's quite cheap, and you technically don't need an extra deck as such. And I know that things like Lightning Chidori are expensive because it's been hyped, but technically you only run 1 and you don't really go into it that much. So there are loads of things out there that you can always get. The problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! And competitive decks is that you need to pick up a deck that extra deck isn't as expensive, and that's always kind of the expensive part of the decks now. What sports do I play? When I was younger, I used to play a lot of sports. I used to play rugby, I used to play football, and I used to swim. I've been swimming since I was about 8 years old, and I stopped when I was about 18 when I went to university because I always used to compete all the time. And I was quite competitive with it, and hence why my shoulders are kind of big, if you don't recognise, if you don't see. That's all swimming right there. It's also rugby, but they're the main ones that I used to play. But I always used to play a lot of things. Like, I competed in shot put, if you don't know what that is. look it up. I was second in my national tournament. I used to play badminton and everything like that. So there are a lot of different things that I used to play, and it just kind of depended on what I was feeling. But yeah, I was a bit of a sports buff. Vale Height asked, what's a deck that you would love to be able to play specifically because of the lack of support? Toons. Toons are one of these decks, because it's a Pegasus deck, and I love Pegasus, he's my favourite character from the original series, that I just want to play Toons so badly, and they need to have support because it'd be the most coolest support ever. So bottom line, straight away, Toons. Multispeed 98 asks, what's my favourite number? 11 and then 3. A little bit geeky, but 11 because it's just simply my lucky number. It was the bus that I always got home and such, so 11 just fitted in and it brought me some luck. And 3 because when people asked for me to pick a number between 1 and 10, obviously I couldn't pick 11, so I picked 3 because 11 in binary terms is 3. Maths. Justin Mays asked, what's made you play Yu-Gi-Oh? And what made you create a Yu-Gi-Oh channel? So I already said earlier how I got into the game, but as a regards to how I made a Yu-Gi-Oh channel, it was actually from some inspiration from my mate Pewsley, because he had a Yu-Gi-Oh channel then when I was back in the Bristol locals and I was living in Bristol, and I just thought, hey, this is a good idea, why not? And that's just kind of how it progressed. So he's no longer doing Yu-Gi-Oh videos anymore, and I bought his Yu-Gi-Oh collection off him, so sad to see him go because he's a really good friend of mine. But if you ever want to know why I got into Yu-Gi tubing, it's because the name YouTuber Pewsley. Benji TCG asks, other than Herald of Perfection, what is your favorite deck or archetype? So he asked something else, but I'll just do this. So favorite archetype or deck will be after Herald will be Heretics. Heretics are the one deck that I really love because it was so aggro and it was just so much fun to play in OTK people, and a lot of people didn't expect it when it was played outside of the format where it was hyped. I didn't really like the Dragon Ruler version as such because I liked the rank 6 build, and I still do. I know I put up a rank 7 build not too long ago, but I still prefer the rank 6 build, and that will be coming up on my channel very soon. The Estate Agent Gaming asked, your hair is really nice. What hair product do you use? I just use wax. That's it. Nick Turn, why does every video you make start with your turn Yu-Gi boy? Character loyalty or, well yeah, it's simply because it's Pegasus, and I really like the whole your turn Yu-Gi boy because it's really important to the game. Obviously everyone knows what it is, and it's just something that I've just kind of affiliated myself with. The original ident that I kind of did an intro was the Pharaoh music, and then that got copyrighted, then I did my joke one, and now I'm settled with this, and I just really like it because I feel that if someone hears that opening, they know that it's probably kind of associated with me. Zero Volt asks, what do you feel about Time Lords as an archetype? You have no idea how much I want those Time Lords to come out. It was a fake scan ages ago that some of the Time Lords were coming out, and I thought they were going to come out in one of the previous sets, and they didn't. And I was so broke because I really want to play the Time Lords. While they may be slightly busted if they keep the anime effects, I don't care, but I really want to play them so bad. Galactic Gods, I wonder who that is. What is the hardest thing about being a Yu-Gi-Tuber slash Yu-Gi-Oh player of Europe, and what is the best? So the hardest thing for me is the fact that we don't get the exclusives like the Americas get. So for example, the Shonen Jumps and the manga promos and anything like that, we don't get any of them until they get reprinted. We can't legally play them. So we waited about 2 years for Quasar, which was always sad because I wanted to play Lava Quasar, and then Rekindling got hit to 1, and then Quasar was legal. Best thing is the opportunity to kind of travel to different European events. So as I speak, YCS Prague is currently going on. It's on my TV behind you. It's probably the funnest thing, the fact that we have the opportunity to go to all these events. I don't go to as many as I would like to, but I'm going to try and do some more this year, and I'm going to try and judge as many YCSs as I can in Europe. Rocky Rod, do you like heroes? Yes. Alex Nugent, will you be doing a topless segment? Okay, thanks. It isn't going to happen. You're lucky that the chest hair's back at all. What is the first deck you ever played? It would be the Kyber structure deck. Funniest judging experience by killing 555. That would be YCS London when we burst streamer destruction an entire field for game. That was fun. Kevin Bromley, what's your favorite ghost rare? That would have to be Black Rose Dragon. Professor Wally D, since you live in England, do you follow the EPL? And if you don't know what that is, that's the English Premier League. I support Liverpool. Do you support a team? Cheers, mate. Hashtag. I support Manchester United because I'm originally from Manchester, so you now automatically hate me. If people in America, you don't know what I'm on about, there's a rivalry between Liverpool and Manchester, and it's been going on for decades because they basically live next to each other. They're about 20 minutes away from each other, so or half an hour, let's say. But yeah, so that person, Professor Wally D, now hates me and is probably unsubscribed. Ollie Bob's Gaming. Do you agree with Whirlpool's quitting Yu-Gi-Oh? And if so, have you ever thought about quitting yourself? Well, he's kind of back now, and I don't have an opinion of anyone who wants to quit because it's down to them, and I have no opinion at all, no judgmental opinion. They are welcome to do whatever they like. Fated Ex-Duelist, what is your Pornhub rating? Oh, I can't disclose that. Here I am, what do you think about the Cyber Dragon deck? Well, now the new OCG support's coming out. If the TCG gets that support at any point, it's gonna be good. Angus Siddell, what is your least favorite deck to play against? I believe it's either Six Samurais or Dark World. Probably Six Samurais more than anything because I just hate how that deck runs. I also had a very, very horrible experience at a regional where everyone for some reason decided to play Six Sams and I was playing Herald, and they went first game 1 and game 3, and this was the first 3 rounds, and they opened up D-Fissure, 2 back row, and Shien against me with Herald. Owen Murphy for the last one. I'll just answer the first one of his 2 questions. Will you be making an updated version of Berserk Dragon deck? I would like to, and hopefully I will, but I don't see it in the next few months or so. It depends on how I feel about building it when I start testing it, because I don't just build a deck profile. I just don't build it and then profile it. I like to test it for a few days, at least a week maybe. So that's why it takes me a bit of time to actually get some of these deck profiles out. I still want to do a Jam Breeding Machine updated version, but I need to test it more because I'm not happy with it how it is now. So that is it, guys. This was a really long video. I don't know how long it is because it doesn't tell me how long, but I hope you did enjoy it. As I said, post down in the comment section below new questions for next month. I do apologise that I haven't been able to answer everyone's, but please understand that there's a lot. 270 odd questions would take me decades to answer. So I hope you did enjoy it. Let me know down in the comment section below what questions you would like to ask next time. Like, comment, subscribe, and I should catch you guys later.